Hello, and welcome to another episode of Jaxon Talks. Everybody, I'm not really sure how to do this introduction, but it's a very interesting story to be honest. Because as you guys know, Ben he edits all of these videos, and he edits all the You Are Love videos, and we've become really quite close friends. But I've never met Ben. We just kind of got linked up through social media. And then he works with someone named Scott, who is on the show today, and we're going to do this episode together. So I think Scott has a really interesting story to tell. I think it's very powerful. I think a lot of people will resonate with, and maybe inspire them to go get help or to keep going or whatever the case may be. But what's up, dude? How are you? And give any more introduction to yourself that you would like to.
Yeah, no, you covered it all quite well. Yeah, as I say, as you say, sorry, we were introduced there via Ben, who obviously I did the Catch Pro show early on in the year. Fingers crossed, everything going well. We'll be able to get some more shows up and running. But yeah, Ben asked me to do the basically do this talk, and I'm really up for it. Yeah, I love everything that you're doing. I think it's really admirable.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, he told me that you kind of wanted to do a "You Are Loved" video, but sharing your story just in front of a camera can be really difficult. And so we decided to kind of do it on a Jaxon Talks Everybody episode instead.
Yeah, because I mean, it's really weird because it's not something that I've kind of discussed openly before. It's a thing that I'm quite guarded about in some ways. Some ways not so much. Some ways I forget and just drop it in conversation, and people are kind of like, I get kind of aghast by it. But I think we'll obviously we'll cover it when we start going. But yeah, so I essentially in kind of a nutshell, I've kind of been in and out of therapy for the last 4 years now. I've either been diagnosed or misdiagnosed, depending on which way you look at it, as having either PTSD or CPTSD. I'll kind of explain sort of the differences a little bit if I can. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want me to just kind of like freestyle and kind of let you input a few questions, or if you'd like to.
We'll get yeah, we're gonna probably get right into it, but I want to ask you first. I always start the show with one question. I think it's a very powerful question, and I think when answered open and honestly, it can really be a good segue into some deeper connection, deeper meaning. So how are you doing, like for real?
For real, it's been a rough couple of weeks. It's been a rough couple of weeks, to be honest with you, in terms of just the kind of the levels of depression that I've just been in. Um, I've cut all my hair off because I was just having a really bad day, and I was just not happy with things with where I was. And it's kind of backfired, and it's turned out quite well because now I'm getting quite a lot of compliments about people are surprised that I've actually got a jawline, and the hair's pretty decent. I think I had to go in the barbers the next day and say, "Oh, I accidentally had a one of them pandemic self haircuts, and it's gone a bit wrong. Can you help me out?" But yeah, I mean, sort of like life's kind of gives you a nudge sometimes and says it's time to sort of move on in the next chapter, as it were. So yeah, it's kind of been a low couple of weeks, but I'm really coming out of it at the moment. Actually, it's doing quite well for me.
Very good to hear. How's overall quarantine been for you?
Surprisingly, it's been wonderful. I feel really guilty saying it, but in the sort of situation that I kind of am, I've loved it. I've absolutely loved it. I've had lots of freedom. There's been no people about, no cars about. When I'm anxious, I can go out and go for a run. And I know a lot of people are sort of panic buying on life at the moment. It's a really tough time for them, but it's just Monday for me. In a lot of ways, it really is. Um, yeah, it's kind of like I'm sort of used to the anxiety of going out and just expecting bad things to happen. Um, I've dropped 40 pounds because I've been active and I've been going out and running, and everywhere's clear and there's no weird danger. So it's been a real weird sort of positive experience for me in some strange ways. I know it's been really difficult for a lot of people, so I kind of feel guilty saying it, but
Yeah. Has your positive experience kind of been brought down knowing that a lot of other people are going through something, not
yeah,
positive?
I've very much so. Very much so. I've started planning my thesis at the moment in regards to that because I'm just like the sort of come night time when you can't switch your thoughts off. I just sit there and just worry about all these kids that are growing up in being told not to touch people and being told to sort of wash their hands constantly, and I'm just worried that it's going to breed a generation of kids with attachment issues and OCD, and um, so that's kind of where like I've got young cousins, and I've got a young goddaughter, and I kind of think that they're young enough where they won't really pick up on it, but I do have friends who have kids who have of a certain age. I know a lot of teenagers, like my colleagues at work have got sort of teenagers, and they seem to be loving it because the Facebook and the Twitters and Zooms keeping them all together. Um, One colleague actually says like a teenager is seems to be having more in-depth conversations with friends and sort of learning and getting to know these people a lot better. But yeah, I mean, just like I think about people that have had to shield, and it's not been a great time for a lot of people. It's not. It's
Yeah.
really bad. But
I'm kind of in the same wave as you. Like for me overall, like considering everything that's happening in the world, for me on a very personal level, I'm doing well. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like wrestling being kind of put on hold really gave me an opportunity to like really focus on some other things, like my life coaching stuff. I got You Are Loved turned into a nonprofit organization, like things that I was going to do eventually. It was going to take more time because I was so busy before, and now they're just kind of all lining up. And these are all things that people need in this situation, which I like wasn't planning for that, right? I was just knowing that mental health services are need, people need coaching, people need support, people need community. And now all of those things are like really super important, even especially now, because
yeah,
a
absolutely.
lot of people still can't be close to each other, and we're like, so we're using social media, and we're in deep mental health crisis, at least in our country. I think you are in your country as well.
Yeah,
Um,
very
and so I
much.
think it gives me like a bigger perspective. Like it's okay for me to be happy because if I'm healed and if I'm happy and if I'm on this journey, then I can have more space to help other people. And I think that goes the same for you.
Yeah, again, if I hadn't, I did like online courses that and changed. It's changed a lot for me, um, for the positive. Like it really has having the time off, and so sometimes you've kind of got to understand that like it's kind of okay for you to process something positively because you're not necessarily taken away from people who have had a bad time. It's not like you're not doing it in spite of them. Um,
Right.
Sometimes you've got to let yourself take the best out of a situation,
Hmm.
and like you say, you talking about everything that you've been able to achieve is it will inspire someone to say, right, well, I'm locked down, I can't go out, I can't drink, I can't go out and have fun, I can't see my friends, but maybe I can do that thing that I've been putting off doing for however long. So you know, it's the media as well. Like in terms of the media, you just see so many negative stories. Like I've got an app on my phone that's just positive stories only, and it just drops random news articles about just like what was the last one was a guy goes fishing in a unicorn blow up. boat, and it was just a story about this guy fishing and catching this massive fish. And I was like, that's brilliant. That's that's kind of the stuff that you need sometimes in when the world seems to be going to hell around you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're okay. So today is September 23rd, and you're coming from where exactly? Where are you at right now?
Salford, England. Oh, do you mean
What?
physically or?
No, no, no. Like yeah, what country you're in? But
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
what's the biggest city that people would know close to that?
So Manchester.
Okay.
I spend most of my life in Manchester. I kind of work there. There's a river between us. Um, a lot of Salfordians get a bit tetchy about being called Mancunians sometimes. Apparently, we're in the Magna Carta. We've been around longer. I'm not so much so. I'm Manchester's been home for me for 39 years. So
Is that where you grew up? Same place?
yeah, well, I always grew up. I grew up in Salford, um, but it was always Manchester was the sort of the biggest, nearest city. It's where I went to uni and such.
Nice. And what are you doing now?
In terms of work, I'm working for the General Medical Council, so we're basically doctors who want to come into the UK have to go through a test, and I run the test. If you ever see pictures of me with mannequins and androids, that's what I'm doing. I'm setting up scenarios for doctors to come in and diagnose. We kind of get role players in to play poorly patients, and we sometimes have mannequins. So it's like, uh, oh, you need to do a rectal exam. So I prepare this model of a bum so they can do the rectal exam, and then they'll come in. The role player will pretend, oh, I've got an illness, and then the doctors have to diagnose the illness and give them a management plan.
Mm.
And if they do
So
that
you're
enough, then they get jobs in the UK.
so you're making sure the doctors are up to par, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Which it's very important. We're getting so much political pressure at the moment because we shut down in March, and there's a lot of people weren't happy that we're taking away this opportunity to get all these doctors to come in and help with the pandemic. And so yeah, so we've just been what's the word I'm looking for? Classed as key workers. So if we do go into lockdown to electric boogaloo, I'll still be going in work because we're key workers now. So
Mm. You're essential.
we're there, well, they tell us we are.
I think you are.
Yeah,
Um, so let's talk a little about your wrestling promotion that you have with Ben, and then we'll kind of get
yeah,
into more of your your life story and your journey and how you're here where you are. Um, so you guys ran one show, right?
yeah. So I've known Ben for a long time. I was working in a pub and he come walking in and we both had wrestling t-shirts on and it was like, he said to me, "Are you an Edge fan?" I was like, "Yeah," and then we just kind of got talking and became friends. And it's we probably talked about doing it for almost a decade. Almost a decade, and then sort of last year, my life changed. It just went differently, and I had money that I'd been saving up to buy a house, and you know, just I ended up with enough money to just basically text him and says, right, we're going to do it. So yeah, so we got a lot of people on board helping us out, and managed to get the show up and running and make it work. It was cool. It was really cool.
Yeah, it looked awesome.
It's fun. We'll definitely have to have you down at some point.
Absolutely. I've heard a lot of mixed feelings about running a show. Did you like running one? Was it stressful? Like, what was the kind of the vibe?
Um, in in terms of running the show, there's because I come from a background of promoting bands. So I'm usually sort of booking bands in a small venue in Manchester. I wear quite a number of hats.
Mm.
Like a DJ, I do pub quizzes, I put bands on and stuff. I do a lot of bar entertainment. Um, so it was all quite normal for me. It was kind of the same thing. In terms of running the band, it's just that instead of having four bands, you've got 20 wrestlers. Um, so it's interesting because you kind of have your ways. There's definitely a culture involved in sort of the wrestling that I wasn't quite as clued up on as I should have been at some points, but for the most part, a lot of people were kind of cool. Like a lot of the wrestlers were cool. Some people, so I forgot to shake someone's hand, and the wrestlers didn't say anything about it, but other people like did. It's quite disrespectful. That really, I was like, well, I met the guy 4 times. I didn't realize I had to kind of shake his hand every time. So less, it was kind of like it's less the actual wrestlers than it was, just sort of people who again are kind of on the prefaces of the culture, I guess, if that makes sense. But other than that one incident, I think it went really well. The end. There's kind of stuff that happened at the end that was quite daunting for a lot of people that we didn't quite plan on. But you live and you learn, don't you? I should have been more upfront and more sort of not so much decisive, but I should have like told people what I wanted more than I guess I did. So yeah, it was
in
interesting,
terms
but
of
it was
what?
there was just an incident where a wrestler said something that offended quite a lot of people. And it's kind of weird because I don't think he necessarily wanted to offend people, but it definitely went in a direction that I didn't particularly want it to go in. So it's weird. But it was we'd gone so far into the show at that point that we were able to cut it from the videos. But
And
it's
now with
crazy.
like with coronavirus and with the speaking out movement, like I guess
Yeah.
things are super on hold for now for you guys.
It is for us. It is for us personally. I know a lot of companies are doing really well and running shows, but until I'm and Ben as well, I think I'm okay speaking to him. But until we're 100% certain that we can run a safe show, we're not going to. I just don't think it's worth risking people's health. Um, we need entertainment at this point, so I don't begrudge companies that do. I know a lot of companies, it's their living, it's how they make money. I've got 2 jobs and I promote a wrestling show, so I'm kind of not quite as in the same boat as they are. So I do absolutely appreciate why some shows are running, but until we've got the venues, because we use the Manchester Union as well. So until that venues, tells me, yeah, it's safe and we can do it, my hands are tied on that one, really.
Yeah, I mean that's totally a respectable decision. I think that makes sense for sure.
I mean, I hope so. I think people get it. I do think people get why we sort of holding out and kind of postponing the show. Sorry, the neighbours' dogs just come out. But we really excited. It's kind of a nightmare. The timing was terrible because we'd made plans. We had like kind of 6 shows. We had an idea of what we were going to do, and then obviously kind of everything stopped. So now, there's talent we don't have access to that we had plans for. So eventually we're going to be able to sit down and take 20 minutes to sort of just say like, right, well, this is what we need to do. But it's worrying. It's really worrying, like, because just the idea that like I don't like the idea that there's I might, through my lack of knowledge, I might put somebody on who will upset people. In terms of the stuff with regarding the speaking out movement, so that causes me quite a lot of anxiety as well. But hopefully, I know it went to Commons. I've seen the. I don't know if you've spotted the lass who took it to the House of Parliament and mentioned the regulation in regards to wrestling. So hopefully, it's going in a good direction. And we've spoke to a lot of people in terms of safeguarding as well. So yeah, I mean, as soon as I hear back and I've got information and we've got a concrete plan, then we'll definitely be moving forward and going hell for leather with it, I think.
Yeah, I didn't hear any about the
Sorry, I'm
stuff
just
going
having a
to
cough.
Parliament, so that's really cool.
Sorry about that. That was a cough. Yeah, I've only seen a brief clip. Pardon me. Somebody sent it to me on Twitter, So I was looking at that. So that's really interesting. I'm looking forward to following that and find out where that goes.
Awesome. Yeah, we definitely have to do more than just tweet about wanting to run safe shows. We actually have to do something about it and have actionable change to actually make the shows in the
Yeah.
UK and the US safe, healthy, for everyone. So yeah, everything we can do to make those safeguards real and long lasting, I think, are very important. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's change has to kind of start somewhere, doesn't it? And it's gonna be quite a slow process. Um, it's gonna be a slow process, but if people want change, then people will get behind change, and it will continue to get better.
Absolutely, 100%. Okay, so that's cool. That's good. That's enough with wrestling, I guess. So let's talk about you. Just like, I mean, you can start wherever you want to start. You can start from the beginning, middle, end. You can start with how you're feeling now, or where you're at now, or your process you're going through now, or wherever you want. Just like tell us
Right,
about yourself, and I'll chime in every once in a while to kind of pivot in a direction. But let's make this about you.
right, okay. So I 2016, I ended up breaking up with a girl that I'd been seeing for we've been together for 8 years. It was ish close to a decade, like long, really long relationship. It was quite rocky, and I didn't take it well at all. I self-medicating, missing work. It was a rough few weeks. I got called into my manager's office, and she basically sat me down and kind of said to me, like, we're noticing this, and I'm sat there thinking, right, this is it. I'm going to get fired now. I've ruined. I've lost this job. And he said, would you consider going to counselling? And it's not something I'd ever kind of thought about before. Never occurred to me that you could just go and speak to somebody who's not going to judge you and has no stakes in what they're discussing. But it was like it was a lifeline for me. Because if I didn't, I'm going to lose my job. I'm not performing the way they expect. So I said, yeah, I'll go down. I'll try the counselling out, and just went into the counselling session. The first one I was quite edgy. I was quite a bit unsure. Didn't know what was going on. Second session, I kind of went in, was chatting to the guy, and we sort of discussing kind of the relationship, and sort of kind of the longer that second session kind of went on, it kind of became quite apparent that I was less concerned with the fact that the relationship had actually ended. It was more how sort of worthless it made me feel, and now it kind of reminded me of sort of an incident in my life. And then we ended up talking to that, and it was 8 weeks of counselling to get over this breakup, and I ended up spending 7 weeks talking about the time I was stabbed, and it was kind of just a revelation to me to sort of explain to this chap that I'd never met that yeah, it's something that's like stuck with me. It's in sort of a lot deeper than I had realised. No pun intended. Um, but yeah, so yeah, basically, 2004, I've just handed my college dissertation in. We're going out with a couple of friends from college. We decided we're going to go and try Salford Uni. Um, we're going to go and see if we can use we weren't at Salford Uni yet. I'd applied for Manchester Met, but we're going to try and get in the uni with our cards. So we all met up at my dad's house at the time, and there's three of us. We sort of come out of the house, cross over the street, take a left. We're going to go and get some cigs from the garage before we go up. We're walking from the garage to the Salford University, and somebody shouts, "Have you got a light?" Um, So I kind of carry on walking, and my friend stops to offer this guy a light, and he pulls a knife out and says, "Give us your money." So I panicked and I went for the knife. I went for the guy's wrist that had the knife in. I remember him trying to like twist his arm, try to get him to drop this knife, and just all of a sudden it was just like loads of people, just gangs of lads, just surrounding us. One of the friends managed to run off, but basically I ended up. I don't want to say wrestling, but I'm going to say wrestling to the guy to the ground, and I've kind of got him pinned down, and I'm trying to get the knife out of his hand. He drops the knife, and we're fighting him, just kind of pummeling this guy, and there's loads of people kicking and punching. And then all of a sudden, I've just got punched in the back of the head. So I let go of the guy, stood up, turned around. I was going to confront the person that just punched me in the back of the head, and then all of a sudden I was just covered with blood, just like blood everywhere. So I reach behind, feel my head, and my finger just goes into this massive gash that's in the back of my head. And so I turn to my mate and says, "Mike, we got to run." So we basically just sprinted to the garage. We're like, if we can get in the garage, we'll be safe. So we run into the garage, and I see the guy run to the front door. And I'm like, oh, he's going to help us. He's come to help us. And he locked the door, just locked the door and just left us out on this concourse of a garage. We just ended up getting our heads kicked in. There's just like I'm bleeding everywhere, and I'm trying to fight back. Eventually, I end up pinned to the ground. There's a couple of guys on top of me, and the one with the knife has got it pressed into my wrist, and he's telling me I'm gonna kill you, you fat bastard. Pardon my language. And I've never been as scared in my entire life as I was just at that point. And it was I had like £14 in my pocket. It was nothing. It just wasn't worth it. I should have just give the guy the money, but I saw a guy pull a knife out of my friend, and I panicked and just I didn't want him to get hurt, and then I ended up making him get hurt, causing him to get hurt. But I didn't notice the sirens. I didn't hear any sort of sirens, but a lot of police turned up and came to sort of help us. And like a few people got chased off, and one guy tried to pick me up off the floor, and I just panicked and turned around and punched him. I didn't realize. So one of his colleagues says you've just assaulted a police officer, and he tries to arrest me. And the two police officers end up arguing, and one's like he's in shock, like leave him, don't be stupid, kind of thing. They were rowing. I was a big guy at the time. I was like a lot of belly. And I remember them taking my t-shirt off. It was a Glory by Honor t-shirt. It had CM Punk, Terry Funk, and a few other people on it. And I remember them pressing, like using the t-shirt to sort of stop the blood, and I was just sat there like with all my belly hanging out, and I was just dead embarrassed and just awful. But I ended up kind of going to the hospital, and they're looking at it, and they just remember the doctors just telling me how lucky I was, and I'm sort of sat there. I've got a hole in my head, a hole in my wrist, and I'm just like this. I don't feel lucky, me. And So I was well into metal at the time. It was 2004, so we were all into sort of Limp Bizkits and the new metals and stuff. And I've got really long hair. So the doctor comes up behind me with a pair of scissors and says, "We're gonna have to cut your hair." I've just been stabbed in the back of the head, and this guy's come walking up behind me with a pair of scissors and is just like, "All right, I'm gonna cut your hair off." So I freaked out, started yelling at the doctor. It was just like, "I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna, don't try this. You're ridiculous," and just losing my rag at the guy. And there was just this one sort of nurse, which would just sat there saying like, "You don't have to cut his hair off. Like I can do this. I can do the stitches. I'll just work around his hair. He can keep his hair." And yeah, man, that was so cool. He just did. He took ages trying to like go through. stitching so he didn't have to cut the hair off and get into the wound. That means a lot to me. And it's weird in sort of everything that goes on. Like, I'm just so grateful for the guy just being like, I'm gonna go above and beyond in this situation. But yeah, so I ended up. I didn't realize at the time, but I'd also been hit by a bottle. I actually got my medical records from the doctor today, because like I'm basically I'm in 2 weeks. I'm starting full proper trauma therapy for what was going on, which is sort of different to the kind of CBT and the counselling that I've been for before. So I'm dead excited for this. But yeah, so apparently I got hit with a bottle as well, and they were looking try to get glass out, which is funny. It's not funny. The first time I got stabbed, I was stabbed with a bottle. So like on 2 occasions, it's just weird. It's just so weird. Like,
So when you went to therapy or counseling for the first time in 2016,
yep,
you initially went because your work forced you, but it was based on the breakup you had with a lady,
yeah, yeah,
and that opened up the conversation about what had happened in
yeah.
2004.
hmm
And so between 2004 and 2016, you hadn't really spoke about this incident, or you just how'd you deal with it?
I didn't. I didn't. I didn't, because it was like because there's kind of other stories. The sort of the reason I was kind of people say, well, the second therapist that I went to basically told me that I don't think it's PTSD from this incident. I think it's CPTSD from a series of incidents that have occurred. Um, a lot of them involving sort of violence and bullying and that kind of stuff earlier on in my life, but then a few others that have happened afterwards. Um, so it was in terms of kind of dealing with it. I hadn't really dealt with it. I just didn't think about it, didn't talk about it. It was, kind of being told. It completely changed my personality, because I was when the incident happened, I was with a different woman, and it just ended. It was the end of our relationship, basically, because I just wasn't the same person that she wanted to be with originally, and I just you know didn't understand that there was this so it's like a brain thing. I just thought I was I just thought I was a bad person, um just angry, just for no emotion, just kind of when I sort of talk about kind of the symptoms that kind of was like, kind of triggered it might explain it a little bit better. But it was just I didn't deal with it. I didn't at all. And I'm kind of it was 2000. It was the 2000s, I should say, in mental health. Where it is now, it's not in a good. It's not in the best place at the moment. It's getting better, a lot better, but back then it was. It just wasn't quite the same. Like the doctor let me walk out of a hospital after being assaulted and stabbed in the back of the head. Um, and again, it was just kind of being told I was lucky. That was, I mean, when you think about it, if you sort of look at the scar and you see where the skull is, there's like it's not even a millimeter. If the knife had been lower, it would have gone into my neck, and that would have been game over. Um, but because the skull's like quite stiff and hard, I guess the knife just didn't penetrate my skull, and I was I'm alive. Um, but yeah, it was just like, is this what lucky feels like, kind of thing, and it just kind of takes away a lot of optimism.
Yeah.
Um, in sort of in where you are and how you are. But yeah, it was just like just feeling like I said, feeling just worthless and just like, you know, someone will kill you for 14 quid. It just is not it's not the best mind space to be in. And yeah, so like just there's kind of a lot of incidents that like the 2016 relationship was kind of going wrong anyway. We weren't in a great place in 2016, but she ended up leaving me for someone else, and it was just awkward. Um, it was just bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's just going in there and saying like, just telling him I feel worthless. He's like, oh, how long has that been going on? And I'm just like, since I was stabbed. And he's like, okay, let's talk about this, shall we? So yeah, I just kind of had no idea, and then we end up doing a lot of the questionnaires, and he's asking me a lot of questions, and how do you feel? Yeah,
It's
like
a lot.
so. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to let my brain catch up.
It's okay.
Um,
Take a second. Take a second to breathe.
yeah, I'm just gonna grab a
Um,
drink.
yeah. Have a drink. Take a second. I mean, yeah, like, because where mental health care is right now, and just overall the state of it for both our countries is better, right? Better than it used to be for sure. But it's still not great right now. So I can't even imagine back then, in 2004, like, it's like, just, you gotta just, like, the language that we use, and when someone's like just experienced a real trauma or real pain, is super important. And I know, like, eventually you will feel a state of gratitude or luck that
Yeah,
you're still alive, but that takes time to get there. That takes time to realize that in the moment when you're in deep pain, you just need someone to be there for you.
yeah,
And that's why the person who decided that they could get around your stitches by not cutting your hair was so impactful for you, because they didn't say anything like, I'm here for you or I care for you. They just showed you
yeah,
that you're important in this moment. You mean something. I can see that you're in a lot of deep pain, but your hair is important to you, and I want to give you that sense of care and compassion. So I'm going to work around it. Those are
yeah,
just like simple, really, like, they seem simple, but they're obviously not, right? We're in 2020, 16 years later, and that moment is still really powerful for you. So it's not simple.
it's the most.
Not it's the literally the it could have saved your life in the moment. It turned your day around. Whatever the phrasing, the cliche phrasing you want to use, it means something, and it's not cliche because it's real.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
so if people, like, want to learn more about, like, mental health, it's not really like, you can go get educated, you can get certifications, you can do courses, you can do all those things, but really it's just about being kind in the moment and using appropriate language to show someone that you're there. And
yeah, I
so,
absolutely agree, 100%. Absolutely. Um, I couldn't, like, because it is now, even sort of at my most, when I get depressed, and when the depression kind of hits me really hard, it's always um the moment that brings me around. Just kind of sitting there, like, saw read a review in Men's Health. It was this article about a chap he was an old fella, and he wanted to run a marathon. I remember him saying, like, he started training. He ran for a minute, and he was like, oh, I can run for a minute. I've proved I can run for a minute. So every minute I'll run for a minute, and then I know I can run for a minute, so I'll run for another minute. And he just sort of used that phrase, and that's kind of was really impactful on me in terms of the depression. I'm like, if I can last a minute, I can get through the next minute, because I've just proven to myself that I can get through a minute. But it's you come up with these coping mechanisms, but it's always thinking of that guy. He didn't have to do it. He didn't have to do it. He could have just shaved my hair off. He could have just, you know, moved me on to the next person. But it's just like you say, it's just taking that time to just kind of understand where somebody's at, and like you say, just showing that you care, as opposed to just, you know, it's easy to say it sometimes, and people mean it when they do, but you know, when somebody's got no, you know, he's got no ties to me. He's never met me in my life before. He's never seen me since, and he just took a moment to say, like, I'm gonna look after this kid.
It means everything.
Mm-hmm.
It means everything. That's why, September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and the big theme is just checking in on your friends, like sending that text, making that phone call, like even with a stranger, like smiling at a stranger, holding the door open for them, saying thank you. Like you honestly don't really realize how big of an impact those little things have. And it's a trickle down effect, right? If someone feels super grateful for that interaction they had with you throughout the day that was random and you'll probably never see that person again, they're going to go do that to someone else. And it just makes the world a little bit more happier, especially in times like this. So, um,
Yeah, yeah,
so
it's
whoever that
essential.
person is, we appreciate you. And I hope your life since 2014 has been fantastic.
Yeah, I've just the reason I got the medical records was because I was hoping to find the guy and just send him a message on Facebook or Twitter and just kind of, I'd love to explain it to him. I just, you know, he has no idea,
No clue, but he was
no
amazing that day.
idea, no idea. You know, I love him so much. I've got so much love for that guy. It's weird. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's beautiful though.
It's,
Okay. How are you feeling? You okay?
yeah. I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, so you do counseling for the first time in 2016. You do about 8 weeks of that, and then where does that lead you?
So that was when the moved me on to the proper therapy for the PTSD, because when he told me, I think you've got PTSD. I was kind of like, I've seen Forrest Gump, mate, and I know what PTSD looks like. I'm not a soldier. I've never been to war. There's no way. I've not got it. So we kind of did a lot of work regarding sort of looking at PTSD. I always talk about it in terms of the biology of it, because I kind of feel it's easy to sort of talk about the biology of PTSD as opposed to some weird fictitious mental health thing that people sometimes want to understand but kind of don't get. And essentially, as I say, I've never been as scared. I've never felt an emotion as much as I'd felt the sort of fear in that moment. Um, it was like not even when I realized I've just been stabbed in the back of the head. It was when I was tied down and somebody said to me, like, I'm going to kill you. Um, so you know, the brain has the fight or flight moment. It triggers the adrenaline, and so when you kind of get mental health from people I've talked to, and this is a general statement, and I apologize if it's not quite the same to you. But I kind of feel people who have mental health issues tend to feel or think with their emotions more than they think with their actual thoughts. And in terms of the sort of PTSD, my brain basically tells me you had this incident where you needed so much adrenaline. I'm basically just going to keep putting drips and drips of adrenaline out, and I'm going to keep putting it out there just in case you ever need that much adrenaline again. So it's continuously, I'm continuously getting like sort of the fight or flight incident, and when your body is receiving the adrenaline, it basically says, "I'm getting adrenaline. Something must be wrong," which
Hmm.
then in turn tells your brain, "Look for something that's wrong." Um, so I'm constantly anxious, constantly looking for what's going to go wrong. And when there's nothing there, I basically start kind of convincing myself what could possibly go wrong. Um, and continuously it's called hypervigilance. I've constantly got this hypervigilance. I'm constantly looking for what's going to go wrong. I'm constantly looking for the negatives in any situation. Like walking to work, somebody pulls me into one side, and my first thought was, I'm going to get fired. That's as opposed to like, we need to have a chat about your health. That's kind of like that. I'm always looking for the negatives, and in a lot of ways, but it's always, what's the threat? What is the threat? Where is the threat? I'll find the
Right.
threat.
You always feel like you're in fight mode.
Yeah, fight or flight, or flee or freeze, it's called, and it's just like, I need to, but there's never, because this is kind of, when I said, like, it's been quite nice, not having people on the street, being able to go running. So yeah, there's sort of a level of desensitization that comes with it as well, where like I'm known in work as being a laid back guy, or someone who doesn't care. Is the one that I get a lot, because sometimes people will tell me stuff, and we've got 900 emails, and it's just like, they're only emails. It's, I don't, it's not, it doesn't even scratch the surface. Like friends, my sister telling me like how worried she is about I'm anxious. I don't want to go out because of the pandemic, and I'm sat there like, it's Monday. Um, so there's so that's kind of the worst thing, is sort of the level of sort of desensitization that I kind of go through in a day. But it works well sometimes, because if there's a fault, or if there's a problem, people will come to me because they know I won't get emotional about stuff. So there's kind of benefits to being a bit, not standoffish isn't the word, but like, like when Ben's texting me saying, can we get the dates finalized with the uni? And I'm like, yeah, I'll definitely get them. And I kind of forget sometimes that it's like, you know, he'll get anxious that we've not got the dates, and I'll be like, they'll send us the dates when they're ready to send us the dates. It's not like, it's not worth getting too worried about. But he's kind of great with me in terms of stuff like that, because he can be quite logical about. Um, he speaks eloquently, and he's quite logical, and he's just like, this is what I need you to do, and this is why I need you to do it, and he kicks me into gear. Yeah, so I mean, so that's we ended up basically going through this list of all these different sort of symptoms. The nightmares. I hate the nightmares. Hate sleeping. I never get REM sleep because my mind's always active. So my memory's terrible. I never get deep sleep. We compare, the sleep trackers in work, and it's just like, I've got 1 minute deep sleep in like an 8 hour, and sleep's the most important, like, for just regenerating, just getting your body sorted.
Right.
So yeah, like if you take one thing from me, it's sleep. Like, I promise you, it's wonderful when you start reading and doing all the research into just how wonderful sleep actually is. It's quite important. Um,
It is,
yeah,
yeah. Because like, well, at least in our country here in the US, we overvalue like work ethic and like grind and like no sleep, all this like really aggressive dumb shit, instead of like having a work-life balance, enjoying what you do for work, having time for yourself and for your friends, and getting enough sleep. Like,
yeah,
no one values that. We always feel like we need to rest only when our body is basically shutting down, and setting of giving ourselves rest when we know we should, because every day we need at least 8 hours of sleep. So
yeah. I
very
mean,
important.
it's kind of like, some of the worst periods of my life have just been because I work so much, and like, I work a day job, and then I work a night job for 2 days a week, and I end up doing like 16-hour days. And come Saturday, I'm just a wreck. Sort of COVID again. It's like because the pub shut down, I've not been doing any work. I've been getting better sleep. I've been having a more regular pattern again. Like I know it's a horrendous thing, but it's just you got to try and take the positive sometimes. But
You absolutely have to take the positives. There's always some in every situation. Usually you got to wait a little bit to see them, but
yeah,
they're there for sure.
yeah, no, absolutely agree with that as well. So yeah, so I mean, there's like sort of lots of physical things that the, the counsellor recommended I go to a therapist over the PTSD, and eventually like we ended up chatting about it, and I've just been reading, taking like loads of information in, and like how do you fix this? Because it's tough, man. It's like you know sometimes like when you just don't get it sometimes, and people like I say, when people kind of tell me stuff and I don't like I get it and I empathize, but I just don't. Sometimes I don't show quite as I don't show that I get it, and it's quite problematic in my life in a lot of ways. Um, it's awkward. So yeah, I mean, and as I say, the lack of sleep, the nightmares. So we end up ticking all these sort of PTSD boxes,
Hmm.
and it was quite a revelation to sort of know I'm not I'm not mad. I'm not I'm not I might not be a bad person. I might have an illness that I can cure, that I can get better, and that I can change. Um, so like 2016, I was just obviously I got told this, and it was great. It was just like an eye opener. It just changed my life. I ended up like it was £300 at the start of the year. It was like 225 by the end of the year. I ended up getting a promotion at work, and it just a lot of things were going well. But kind of the wheels kind of fell off like sort of Christmas the year after. Just again, just a couple of like just bad things happen in life, and you kind of forget some of the training that you get. I ended up going back into counselling, and I basically spoke to a different counsellor who had a different speciality. Who he basically sort of wanted to talk more about kind of the childhood traumas, and I ended up doing the ACEs test. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with the I can never remember what the A stands for in ACEs, but it's adverse childhood experiences, I think. And I got 10 out of 10, just because of like things that had gone on in my life. So my old man, he lost his dad really early on. He was a child. He had a lot of brothers and sisters. He was nearly a teenager. He lost his dad to like it was just a horrific work accident. And so yeah, his ma kind of went off the rails, and ended up looking after all his brothers and stuff. And he ended up turning to drink, and he became like a real heavy drinker, the kind of drinker that spends lots of time in the pub and tells you he's not an alcoholic because he doesn't drink at home. Um, he was quite distant. It was very very difficult. You know, I don't begrudge him in a lot of ways now because I've learned because of what I've learned about mental health. I can kind of see, you know, he lost his dad that young, and he didn't have the opportunity in the 60s to come to terms with that, and there was no one there to kind of teach him. So there's been a lot of sort of forgiveness for a lot of bad stuff he did. First time I got stabbed, when I got stabbed with a bottle, instead of coming to see me in the hospital, he went out and found the lads that did it and did them over, beat them up. So it's just kind of weird, not very connected kind of stuff. So yeah, so because of that, there was some weird like incidents with bullying. When I was a kid, I was getting bullied and being dragged out and told to fight the bullies one by one. Um, you know, getting suspended from school for fighting because they just ended up two lads told me they were going to do me in on a Friday. They were going to get me after school, and just lots of anxiety, and I ended up just fighting with the guys in school. So there's kind of like a lots of sort of stuff about kind of the aggression. So at the moment, you know, as I say, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to look at trauma therapy. So we're going to end up breaking down a lot of those. I've never done trauma therapy, and I can't really speak to it. But I'm really excited. I'm really excited to try and iron the kinks out, and you know, try and work out what's going on, and hopefully, you know, learn and just get better.
Yeah.
Which is the, you know, it's kind of the big one.
Yeah, I mean, you've obviously dealt with a lot of stuff, a lot of deep trauma, a lot of stuff that's really like threatening and kind of made you obviously the person you are today. Um, but it's really a testament to you to now that you're noticing these things and trying to get help. So I think that's really cool and brilliant. Um, I mean, do you have like I mean, I know you're currently going through your journey and you're in your process, but you've learned a lot about yourself, I think, and I think you're on the right path now for sure, which is awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I mean, do you have any advice to someone maybe who had a similar experience than you, or is dealing with some of these kind of childhood traumas that have kind of been redistributed in their present and are undealt with? Do you have any advice or words of wisdom?
The advice and words of wisdom in terms of um, just um, so I had a therapist explain a process to me. Like he used he used the oh, I can't remember the. I'll tell you what, I love Phoebe Cates. I've loved Phoebe Cates since the 80s, since I was a child and I came. So I'll just use a picture of Phoebe Cates, for example. Um, Therapist basically told me he had a picture. It was the most beautiful picture you've ever seen. That's why I say Phoebe Cates. Says you can take the piece of paper that the picture's printed on, you can screw it up into a ball, and you can wreck it, and you can tear it, and you can rip it, and you can rip it, and you can take all the shards, and then you can, you know, sellotape them back together, and you can, you know, straighten out, and you can try and fix it as much as possible, and it'll never be perfect, but it'll always be beautiful. And I really like that because it's dead corny and cheesy, but
Mm-hmm.
it basically it says everything. Like you kind need to know that you can in terms of you can still be the best person that you can be, and that's all anyone could ask of you.
Yes.
And it's a long process. It's not an easy process. You know, they might not get it right the first time. You might get medication that's not quite right for you. You've just got to try the next one, try the
Mm-hmm.
next one, and just believe in yourself. Um, because you know, at your worst point, um, just believe in yourself for a second and just explain. You know, understand that. You know, in terms of mental health, whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression, just whatever it is, it's a lot of work, and you succeeding. You know,
Mm.
it's hard work to be depressed, but you know you're still here, you're winning.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Um,
You could say that again for sure.
yeah, it's hard work and you're winning. That's basically it. Like that's the fact. Um, it's just, you know, kind of try and look at the glass from a different angle, as it were. Just kind of like no matter kind of what life gets at you, so at some point you will be able to say like, you know, I am coping with this, and that's an amazing amount of strength. Um, it's just a phenomenal amount. Like, um, I believe in you. I do. Um, you know, reach out, give me a shout. I might not have the best advice, but I'll definitely listen. Um, because it's just super important that like we do stick together because you know sometimes you know I'll use depression again, like you know people get sad, so sometimes people who don't have sort of clinical depression kind of think they know what depression is, and sometimes it feels like people don't understand, but they're trying. They're really trying to understand, and there is people in your life that will listen and will give you the time. So just know that you're winning. Basically, is the best advice that I can offer.
Yes, that's fantastic. I think what's really interesting about your story, and probably similar to other people's journeys, is that the reason that you initially started counseling or therapy was not the actual root of anything that you've kind of dealt with in your life. And I think that's really important for people to realize.
Mhm.
So it's okay to kind of look back on your journey and see what kind of things have brought you to where you are. And that's why it's really important to talk about it, because
Yeah,
people asking these really deep, tough questions in a safe environment will help you kind of unravel what led you to this point or what's led you to have these patterns or thoughts. And I think you figure that out brilliantly and kind of are in the best spot you've been in a while, I think, from what it seems like.
yeah, very much so. I'm training to become a counselor now.
Look at that, dude. That's amazing. Like from all the stuff that you've been through, all the people that have helped you, now you want to help too.
Yeah, that's like I dropped out of university after it happened, and it has kind of been missing. So now I've gone back and doing the Open University. I'm studying psychology and counselling, and I'm doing a course in counselling, and it's just it's like one day I'm just like I've got 72 weeks of this course, and I'm just going for it because in sort of 73 weeks, I think they're going to hand me a little certificate and say, you can go and help people now. And I'm just going to kind of wake up and see that it was all worth it. Like, um, it wasn't trauma; it was training. Um, I hope that's kind of where I am now. Um, I'm very optimistic, and I think I think it took me 40 years to find a path, but I like the path that I'm on now. And finding the thing that sort of inspires you um, is great motivation. It's great motivation to just try and be better.
Yes,
Like in terms of the depression, like when because it goes up and down. Because um, just one day, I'll just like I say, there's not a lot of emotion. I'm very withdrawn. I'm very isolated in a lot of ways. And sometimes it just all the emotion just hits you, and you're just depressed, and your legs don't want to work in the morning. You're getting out of bed, and you just don't think they're going to take the weight, but they'll take the weight. Um, just do it. Just stand up. Um, I've kind of got this silly little um process that I use, that I rely on. I call it the Scott mess. It's
let's hear
obviously
it.
a wordplay on hot mess, and it's basically mental health every day. Get out, do something for your mental health. Walk a dog, smile at somebody, say hello, just have something, do something, read a book, do something for your mental health. Eat, exercise, get out, get a walk. Um, Even if it's 2 minutes, just get your body active. Sleep is so important. It's so important. It's where it's like it's why people who are depressed will sleep a lot, because your body just regenerates, and that's when it takes all the time. It's when you get the REM, the rapid eye movement, and your brain processes information, and it's in terms of your memory. And then the second S is satiation, which is, I wanted to say food and drink, but that doesn't work in an acronym. But yeah, just make sure you get your veggies in you. Just eat something. If you just do those every day, eventually they all sort of start coming together, and you want to run 10 minutes instead of 1 minute, and you want to work more on your mental health. But yeah, just do those things. Those are the four pillars of getting through life, I think. But
Absolutely.
that's my from what I've learned.
Yeah, I
You
think
know,
that's amazing. At least one thing every day for you and your mental health is
Mhm.
brilliant. It's a beautiful. It's a good start. It's a good daily reminder, and it's possible for every single person.
Yeah, and it's like it's free. It's free to just tell yourself occasionally that you're doing well. It doesn't matter, how poorly you think you're doing. Just tell yourself you're doing well. Eventually, if you fake it till you make it, basically, just say, I'm bad now. Give it a minute. I can do a minute. I've done a minute. Next minute, I might be okay. It doesn't always work, but it does work, and eventually you do kind of change your mindset in terms of what you believe. It's just neurons. It's just little neurons, and they just fire off the electricity in the brain, and it just goes wrong, and it doesn't quite connect, and it's all it's just read up about the brain. It's crazy and it's insane. But if you tell yourself, you know, like I've got a post-it note on my door that says "Make your bed." And every morning I see it before I
Mhm.
leave, and I'm like, "Oh, I've got to make my bed." And you do it enough times, and your brain processes it, and it fires off, and the neurons get longer and get bigger and get closer together. And now you just wake up and you make your bed. It's
Exactly.
just training. 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours in Hamburg. That's what the Beatles did to become the best musicians, the most renowned musicians. You always say like it's just time. You want to become an expert at anything, you've got to put the time in. If you want to become an expert with your mental health, you've got to put the time in. Um, I'm not there yet, but I'm so much closer than I was like 2004. And just educate and just reach out and speak to people. And if you're feeling bad, do something nice for somebody else, because that always makes you feel bad. Feel bad, like bad as in good. Um,
Yeah.
There was poor choice of words then, but yeah, like if you're feeling bad, if you're feeling poor, if you're feeling in bad mental health, do something nice for somebody. You know, it's great, but yeah, I mean that's kind of it's the best advice that I've got really. Is just like give yourself a break, believe in yourself, and just try and get better. And in we'll see. I'm in I'm in a much better place right now than I was when I didn't know any of this information. I hadn't read the books. I hadn't spoke to the counselors. I had no idea. I genuinely just thought I was a bad person who just didn't care about anything. Um, Not all the time. Not all the time. I did, but like it's just weird because sometimes you just don't understand, but you'll learn. Um, you'll learn, and I do because I want to be optimistic because it's just like I'm there and I'm kind of feeling it, and I am getting there. So I don't know. Was that a bit of a rant? I think it might have been, but
No, I think that
every
was
word of
great,
it.
and it was open, and it was honest, and it was authentic, and I appreciate you sharing all of that, your story, everything. There's so much power in it, and it's going to inspire someone who's on the same journey, who feels like who feels maybe felt the same way you did at a time when you were down, and now you're up, and now you're more optimistic, and you understand that there's still bad days ahead of you, but there's going to be way more good days than there is bad days. And now when the bad days do come, you're understanding yourself more, you're understanding your strategies on how to cope and what you need in that moment, and how to make yourself a little bit better, and taking care of your mental health is a priority. So
Yeah,
what you said was great, and I appreciate you sharing very much.
I appreciate you taking me on and asking me to come and do the show. Um, it's weird, like 'cause as I said earlier on, I've never really spoke about um sort of what it goes through my mind, and there's been I've had friends and have joked, and I'll drop it in conversation because I forget it's weird, and it's not like it's not you don't know every day. You don't know somebody who's been stabbed once, let alone twice in their life. So I just drop it in conversation sometimes because I forget, and then I see people's faces, and they're just like, that's kind of crazy. I kind of remember that it is a bit nuts. It's a bit nuts, and it's so weird. But like I say, when the doctor told me, "Are you lucky?" You know, he might have been right. You know, like one day I might have developed the tools where I can actually, use this information to help people, and that's pretty lucky. I think being able to be in a position where I've got the opportunity and I have, these horrific experiences that I can look back on and say, I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the worst part personally, not like on a day-to-day basis, is just feeling isolated and just feeling that there's nobody out there that's kind of been through this experience, and it's weird and unique and nobody gets it. But this is we've got the internet now, and it's you're starting to see people, and you're starting to see communities of people popping up, and I can reach out and say to somebody like, "Oh, you've been stabbed as well. Like, let's chat about it."
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to like trying to exist in a world where I don't feel like I fit in.
Right. We all need a sense of belonging, a sense of community, a sense of connection. And I think the way we build that is by sharing our story.
Yeah,
And we're not just sharing it with anyone to anyone, because we got to be careful who we trust and who we vent to, because that's very important. But if we do find that group of people that we can share our story to, then they'll accept us and honor us and hold space for us. And I think that's important. And I'm really excited to see where you're at in 73 weeks on your journey and on the road to helping people in your own recovery. Um, and so, yeah, I'm excited for all of that.
yeah, I'm very excited, very excited. I can't wait, can't wait. It's gonna be good.
Hopefully, when I eventually actually meet Ben in person, I can meet you in person at the same time too. It's actually really strange to me. Like whenever I talk about Ben, because people always ask me who like edits my videos or the You Are Love stuff, and now he's on my website and stuff. They're like, "How'd you meet Ben?" I'm like, "Well, actually, I've never met him." I'm like, "I've never met him. He's just like a fucking super cool dude, and we just got connected,
Yeah,
and he's just been like a really blessing in my life."
yeah.
And
You,
so,
me both. You, me both.
right, yeah, and obviously he's going to watch this because he's going to edit it, but so hopefully he gets a good smile out of this part.
Yeah, I love you, Ben. Thank you for all your support. Um, I just catch wouldn't have happened without you. Um, you genuinely took a chance on me when I was in a bad place, and I was just like, fuck it, I want to achieve something, and you propped me up and you pulled me through it, and I'm so grateful for having you in my life and
Cheers,
believing in
Ben.
me, and just convincing me to do this, because like I wouldn't have done this if it wasn't for your support. I cannot explain to you how much you mean to me.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you, Scott, for doing this. I think this was a really powerful episode. Thanks for coming on. We're friends now, so that's awesome. So when we
Yeah,
all hang out and have a beer at a pub whenever it's
that'd be
open,
amazing. Yeah,
and I can travel across the country or out of the country. I mean, but
it'll
yeah,
happen. It'll happen.
thank you for coming on. I really appreciate like all of your honesty and vulnerability on this episode. It was brilliant.
Right. Yeah. Thank you very much. I hope it's not your lowest viewed.
It won't be. Usually, when I do an episode by myself, it's when I get low views because no one wants to hear me talk for 2 hours.
Well, give us a shout. Give us a shout.
uh,
We'll talk about happier stuff next time.
yeah, no, I love the deep conversations, man. They mean the most to me. So, and it's just a good way to connect. And I feel like we're connected now in ways where I don't connect with other people that I see all the time because we're not sharing this kind of things.
Well, it's like you as I say, you're an inspiration, like an absolute inspiration. Ben telling me, and just like, because I just watched all the videos like back to back, and all the people that are in there. Like, I'm so grateful. I feel bad because I can't remember which one it was, but there was one where a gentleman said, you know, find your people, because the people will support you, and if they don't support you, they're not your people. And
Hmm.
it just resonated with me so much, in terms of like a lot of people like kind of dropped me off in life because of a lot of things, and I remember hearing that and thinking, yeah, I get it, and it was kind of eye opening, because it was when somebody else tells you something, you sometimes don't believe it when you tell yourself, and I'm like, well, it's my fault that these people don't speak to me anymore, and it was just like, well, no, it wasn't. It was because they didn't support me. So it was great. I really enjoyed the videos, and I'm really grateful that you're doing what you're doing, and stick at it, because it's wicked.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Where can people find you on socials if you want to be found on socials?
Yeah, Catch Pro Wrestling, Catch BW, and Twitter. And you can find me personally. I'm Quizmaster Flash on all formats. I tend to prefer Instagram. I tend to lean more towards that one, but I am on Twitter and Facebook as well.
Super.
But yeah, just give us a
Awesome.
shout if people need, if people just want to reach out, then please do, because I want to learn, and I want to meet people that understand where I'm at, and it would be lovely to reach people and just find new friends and start a new community, in terms of the mental health stuff, because it's very important to me.
Yes. Well, now you're part of this community, and I don't know if people will reach out, but those who watch this show are a part of my community, and so I value them very much. So if they do, then I think that's awesome.
Wonderful.
But again, thanks for coming on. I think
Thanks
we're
for having me.
wrapping up this episode. And yeah, so if you like this episode, please share it with a friend. Rate, review, comment, subscribe. Follow Scott, follow me. Go to youarelovelife.com for any other mental health tools, tips, and resources. And I'll see you next time. Cheers.